Hey Faith Family, welcome to the Beyond Sunday podcast at Calvary Bible, where we go beyond the Sunday sermon to explore some rabbit holes and to bring some biblical truths to the surface. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Calvary Bible Church, welcome to another episode, Beyond Sunday, 200 plus.
Wow.
Yeah. Randy, thanks for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Happy.
I'm just delighted that you invite me to be here.
Yeah. We're all happy.
I bet everybody's thrilled.
You have written some books, right? I've done a little bit of writing myself.
Oh, good.
Not to the nature that you have,
Good.
but papers and things like that.
Yeah.
Can you believe some people have said that I'm a plagiarist? They've accused me of plagiarism. Their words, not mine.
I think that's inconceivable. That's hard to believe.
Yeah, true.
Because you make up words.
I do.
That's what's so cool.
Unashamedly now. I don't even care.
I think that's a thing now for you. You just make them up and people
you know what?
I don't know what that word is, but he said it, so it's a word.
Because sometimes, in all honesty, I'll get words jumbled up in my head, and it's like, do you want to say this word or that word, and you jumble them up, and I don't even care anymore. I'm just making stuff up.
That's great.
Yep. But words do get made up. I mean, they have to get made up at some point.
Somebody makes them up. Why can't you make them up?
Exactly. Just call me Webster.
Some of your words
name.
could end up there. You never know.
No.
If it catches on. And
it happens.
Oh my goodness, some of your work could become viral, and all of a sudden people are saying, that's a new word.
Yeah. It'll catch on. Every year, Webster adds new words to the dictionary, right?
Yep. And every year at the start of the year, it's like, what were the most
influential words of the year?
And those are fun.
Do they take words out of the dictionary? I feel like that's something you would know.
I don't, but I don't know if they detract them. Do they? I would say no. Because if they do, then we're losing vocabulary from the ancient world. I wouldn't think you'd want to do that.
Yeah.
Man, I'm reading. Let me just quickly, because you haven't got to your joke yet. But I was reading a couple of nights ago, still wading through. I'm like 300 something pages into the Abraham Lincoln one volume about his life is fascinating. But wow, the number of times I'm with a colored pencil circling a word, it was like,
what's that word?
Oh, some of these old words in there. So what are we in, the early 19th century or mid 19th century with 1800s with Abe Lincoln? It's like President Lincoln, and some of these words that the columnists, the newspaper people are using. It's like, wow, I don't know those words. It's pretty cool. So I would say no, they don't take them out, but maybe.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I
feel like they should. If I get a new shirt, I need to throw away an old shirt.
Yeah,
so
I'm kind of the same way. Are you that way? I'm that way.
Rebecca's that way.
Oh, okay. So Rebecca and I share that, because Michelle does not share that.
I have a number of clothes hangers, and that's it.
Yeah.
So if a new one gets added, one's got to go.
I don't know it's just a good feeling to be able to do that. It's like, thank you, Lord, for this one. That one served its time.
Yeah. It does feel good to get rid of them, but I need the nudge. Okay. You ready to get into this?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
My goodness.
Matthew 23.
Just an awful text.
Yeah. So I scolded you. I think I used that word, scolded, for not talking about the hens.
I know.
The hen gathers on Mother's Day. You chose to talk about labor pains.
I did.
But where I'll give you credit is the text was really, about, actually that might be a good way to frame our discussion today, because I want to talk about judgment, and I want to talk about how we are saved from judgment and the good news around that. So the labor pains, right, the difficulty getting through that process is really the judgment piece, and that was the tone of the text. So you chose the Mother's Day analogy, or nod that maybe signaled the text better than the hen. So I'll give you some credit there.
Thank you.
So why? Yeah, let's just talk about judgment for a second.
Yeah.
This is a heavy text, and it's been a heavy section. We were coming out of the 7 woes earlier in chapter 23. Jerusalem, now is, in full view here, starting in verse 37. Jesus is really laying it on thick, and then he begins to talk about the destruction of the temple. First, in chapter 24, let me jump there. They're in Jerusalem. The disciples are pointing out the buildings to him.
Yeah.
I think we need to probably compare ourselves, like if you've been to DC, like some of those stately buildings.
Or even Harrisburg.
Yeah, okay. Harrisburg's a great capital. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of these capital cities have what you're looking at.
Yeah. These structures that seem to be untouchable.
Wow.
Yeah. And then Jesus says, there's not going to be one stone on top of another. They're coming down. And what else did that conjure up in their hearts and minds? Is this fear? Is this anticipation that, the temple's coming down, but Jesus is going to reinstate, a new kingdom here? Because again, we know the disciples, they understand a bit, but they don't understand fully yet until after the resurrection, really what Jesus was doing. So I guess maybe to narrow that question, what's going through the hearts and minds of the disciples at this point when this destruction of the temple, the capital city, is coming? What's that do to them? What's that do to the area? Yeah, the people, the Jewish people.
Yeah. What we know is that in this section, Jesus has already been clearly announcing judgment on the religious leaders, which means they're watching Jesus dismantle the entire Jewish religious system. They're watching him dismantle that verbally with rhetoric every time he teaches and preaches. So they're watching this. They're involved with him, close to him, but they don't know. They really don't know, which is clear when they ask the question, when will these things be? So they know that the strong judgment language is coming. And I think that from the textual evidence that we have, they're not clear on so many things. And one of the things that they're not clear about is what they have to be ready for. So I think, again, I don't know where you're going to go with this, but I am going to, in a Beyond Sunday type of thing, what's important for me is that I help you see how this is functioning for the church. And in this case, you and I are in the same situation as the disciples, hearing this announcing of judgment and not really sure of what does this mean? Like, how's this going to unfold? Certainly the when question you and I would have, let's say there's three of us here, you and the two of us. We certainly want to know the timing of it. What are we to look for? That's the time and the signs. But the other part that I don't want you to miss is what they're not aware of is they're not aware of their own danger. That's probably the best place for us on a Beyond Sunday to start thinking about judgment, because here's the danger. The danger is for folks like us who know this text to say, this is future, this is information for the future. It doesn't apply to me. That's the danger. And depending on where you want to take this discussion, I'll jump back in on that in a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So, let's just go right there. If the danger for us, similar to the disciples, Jesus' disciples, is, that's coming
in the future,
and it's not going to affect me. How is that dangerous for us? Is it getting caught up in, that's the rapture's going to, get me out of this, and so I've got nothing to worry.
So that is one of them. So, I talked to a couple of folks right after church. Hunter Keeley and I had a great discussion. He had some super questions, sharp young fella, and really trying to piece this stuff together. And so not everyone, but a lot of the folks in our faith family would have grown up with that teaching, and a lot of us certainly believe in this teaching of the rapture, the event, being caught up together with the Lord in the air, which is very, very biblical. But the danger of the approach, and this is why I snuck in on Sunday, the system being clearer than the Bible. So what you have to be careful of is if a believer says that none of these things are going to be happening until the rapture, then after the rapture, all of these things happen. That means that none of this applies to you. There's the danger. So what happens when you do that is you take the potential for that system. And again, I'm not going to go into all the details, but some of you know this enough to know if that is your system, be careful, because now the Sermon on the Mount doesn't apply to you either. So you have Matthew 5, 6, and 7 that doesn't apply, which is a fairly standard reading depending on your theological system. But then when you get to these texts, and especially Matthew 24, the potential for people to say, none of these signs are going to happen until after the rapture, which, as you just said, we're gone.
Yeah.
We're gone, so it doesn't hit us. So I would caution you, according to my reading, and through the years we've done this with other books, probably that's not certainly the only way to read these texts. And I would say to you, not the best way to read those texts, because all of these things that are being said, here's where Hunter's insights in question was so critical. It is that wherever it talks about the generation, was it in our text or not? Let's see. We went to 14. So whenever there's discussion in this judgment text about this generation, and I don't know, it's probably not, maybe it's not in ours, maybe it's in yours coming. Oh, I'm sorry. In verse 36, truly I say to you, all these things will come upon this generation. We know that Jesus, I'm going to say it like this. I believe that Jesus didn't make a mistake when he said it. Truly, I say to you that all these things will come upon this generation. So the amount of ink that's spilt by scholars on this stuff is enormous. And when I read it and I come away and I go, none of the arguments were conclusive. They all have holes in them. They all leak. But so when you're talking about these things coming upon this generation, what we know, as I quoted on Sunday, most, if not all, of the description was happening in the first century. But every generation since then has looked at this text and said, "Oh, this is happening now." I can remember a famous book title that came out, Armageddon Oil. Armageddon Oil. So look at what was happening in the probably the 90s, if I remember correctly. Armageddon Oil. So all the events taking place in the Middle East, people were seeing the events of the modern day, then linking it to these things. That's been done in every generation.
Yeah.
That's probably enough for me right now.
Yeah. No. But you're connecting two different texts.
Yeah.
The end of 23 and into 24.
Yeah.
Are they connected?
They are.
And the reason I'm asking is because there's a break in the action there where Jesus is talking to the crowds in verses 23 and his disciples. But then, there's this little movement. Now they're on a walk through Jerusalem and they're, looking at all the buildings. And then he begins to talk about the signs of the times. And they ask the question, when will it be and what are the signs?
Yeah.
So,
but the connection between that is actually found with the murder of verse 35.
So that
the murder in 35.
Yep.
You see that?
The blood of
and
the righteous.
Actually, if you go to 34, so no, I'm sorry, 31. Oops, 30. Notice what I'm doing. I keep going up. So if you look at 30, if you look at 30,
chapter 23.
Yeah, verse 30. And so there's the shedding the blood of the prophets, and then go to 31, murdered the prophets, and then go to 34, I send you prophets and wise men, and there's more murdering going on in that. And then in 35, there's the murder, the first murder. And then at the end of 35, the last murder of the Old Testament, which we covered a couple of weeks ago. Mm-hmm. So the murdering of these prophets. Mm-hmm. Now go to verse 37. Mm-hmm. Oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, that's killing the prophets and so forth. And there is the pronouncement of judgment in verse 38. See, your house mm-hmm. is left to you desolate. Well, the question would be, what's the house? If you go to the next, if you go to 24:1, there's your house.
The temple.
Yeah. So that's kind of the connection that's happening because of Jerusalem's handling of these, because of the Jewish leadership leading the way to killing the prophets. You have Jesus continuing this announcement of judgment through chapter 24 mm-hmm. and so forth. That would be the best way to show mm-hmm. kind of a thematic, but really what we're looking for is the cohesion of this section is through that lexical that murdering of the prophets. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when he says desolate temple, is that kind of metaphorical kind of language to say your religion is empty? Mm-hmm. There's
that system
broken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when remember, as I tried to say on Sunday, the link with the Old Testament is fascinating, especially with Ezekiel. So in that Ezekiel text, the glory of God leaves the temple and resides for a moment there on the Mount of Olives. That's exactly what Jesus is doing. He's leaving the temple, turning his back on it, never to go back there again, and goes to the Mount of Olives. So there's that very tight connection between those two events. And this, the glory, in this case, when Jesus is leaving the temple, mm-hmm. What's about to happen to the temple is a symbol of what is happening to the nation. And I'm by the way, just so you know, I'm almost finished Deuteronomy. I've been working hard through Deuteronomy as maybe a future series coming down in years ahead. And wow, I came to the end. I'm nearing the end of the book. I think I've got 2 chapters left. Pouring through that Hebrew text, and I thought, oh, this is amazing, because the curses and the blessings that are talked about over and over. And 2 days ago, I was circling all of the all these curses, and I thought, well, this is now, this is actually what's happening. Is the nation is experiencing still the curses of having broken the covenant. So.
Talk for a second about the Mount of Olives. You just mentioned it a minute ago, the connection between Ezekiel mm-hmm. and what Jesus is doing here. I think the way you said mm-hmm. it on Sunday is just that connection between Jesus's departure, God's departure, and then kind of camping out on the Mount of Olives. Mm-hmm. So what happened in Ezekiel? Mm-hmm. Explain that to us again.
Yeah. And then, the glory of God is leaving. Again, it's judgment on the nation. The glory of God leaving. I thought that the author that I was reading was going to go to do you remember the name Ichabod? Do you remember mm-hmm. hearing that name in the Bible? Mm-hmm. The glory has departed. I thought it was going to be linked to that, but it wasn't. It was linked to this Ezekiel text, which now I understand why. But I'm not great at, so I'm going to say, as I said, I'm not great at these eschatology things. But the Mount of Olives, if you just trace that in your Bible, mm-hmm. has really significant prophetic events taking place there mm-hmm. in Jesus' day, in Ezekiel's day, in Jesus' day, and then in the future day. Mount of Olives is a big deal for prophetic announcements.
Was Ezekiel on the Mount of Olives, or did God's presence land
I think
there?
It was in 11, I think. It was the glory of God getting there, and then settling there at the Mount of Olives. And I can't remember if it was chapter 11 or not.
This is just outside of Jerusalem.
Yeah.
I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll see what I can find, but go ahead, keep going.
Yeah, well, it may not be important. I think where I'd like to kind of land this episode is on why is this warning, which is a dire warning, don't be led astray, mm-hmm. don't be alarmed by wars. Mm-hmm. This isn't Mary Poppins here, right? Mm-hmm. So Why is this, though, good news for the disciples? How do we as Christians, in what ways is this good news, positive? Is there comfort in this somehow, despite the difficulties and the tribulation that, is coming our way?
Yeah.
And happens and has been happening, like you even said, like generation after generation, like we see these things, we, experience, whether it's natural disasters, God's hand, wars, rumors of wars, tension. How is that? Where's the comfort for the Christian in this, the disciple?
Yeah. So far, I'm going to say only two places. The first one is that we finally find out in verse 13, but it's possible to endure this. But the one who endures to the end will be saved. Anybody who hears that, and I tried to bring this out, that because of what we believe in Christ and because what Christ has done for us, that's the main, we do have this hope. So there is some comfort, the fact that we are going to endure to the end and God's going to save us completely. The second comfort is to know that the job's going to get done. In 14, the gospel is going to go everywhere it needs to go. I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know all the nuancing of it. I don't. But I do know this, the job's going to get done, and this gospel of the kingdom will be proclaimed throughout the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come.
Yeah.
And so I've said this a lot here through the years. Whenever I hear someone say that the church is failing, that hurts me, because that is not the case. The church is going to do exactly what it was commissioned to do in Matthew 28:18-20. So this is not the church is going to fail and Jesus has got to bail us out. This is the remnant of genuine believers are going to make sure that verse 14 gets done. Now, what if you're one of the ones who reads this and says, this prophecy really is for the end of the tribulation period when the 144,000 do their work? I'm fine with that. Look, I have no idea. I like that because it's in the Bible. There. I do like that. But if you're asking me, is that the only way this could read? No. But that's part of the issue is, how do we read these prophecies? When will they take place? And some folks might be more comfortable with this gospel proclamation event, worldwide evangelism is not going to be done until the end of the tribulation period because the 144,000 do their job. Hey, good. I'm glad it's going to get done.
Yeah.
I'm also happy saying, as long as God has people on this earth, genuine Christians believe Matthew 28:18-20, or the end of Mark's gospel, or Acts 1:8. We believe these texts, we're on mission pursuing God and advancing his kingdom. I'm good with that too. Right. Hey, let's do our job and let's make this happen. I also like the hastening word that I told you on Sunday in 2 Peter. It's possible for the church to hasten this. And I don't know how that works, but I just know that's what God said. So, yeah.
Okay.
There's a couple of places that there's comfort there.
Yeah.
But this text is not geared to comfort. It's not. This text is geared toward judgment and warning.
Yeah.
And so, and you hit on those. See that no one leads you astray. Don't be alarmed. All these are the beginning, just but the beginning of the birth pains. And then after that, expect to be hated, tribulation, martyrdom, many falling away. And I think it was R.T. France that made that awful. What you're seeing a church in decline. Now, if he's right eschatologically, that's a frightening thing to watch some churches lose parishioners steadily. But there's going to be a remnant that's going to make it.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah.
Yeah. And so maybe my summary of this conversation and kind of wrap up in a nutshell the sermon on Sunday for us is, right, judgment is coming. God is the judge. And so up until that moment, whenever that happens to be, depending on your eschatology, don't be led astray by a false gospel. The comfort in don't be alarmed is because we know we will endure till the end. The church will accomplish its mission. And again, based on your eschatology, let me say, regardless of your eschatology, the proclamation of the gospel, God will accomplish what he sets out to accomplish. And you and I want to be a part
That's on us.
Of that proclamation. Whether it's before or after the rapture, whatever the case is.
During the tribulation,
we're here.
Hopefully we won't be here.
I hope not.
No, I don't want to be.
And it's coming.
Yep.
As I'm getting ready for 24:15, the abomination of desolation.
I know.
He says early on in these verses, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by the prophet Daniel, standing in the holy place, and then in these parentheses he says, "Let the reader understand." So now I've got to go back to Daniel, and so I've been in Daniel a little bit.
Yeah, good for you.
And what's been interesting is all these Jewish people. They, like Daniel chapter 9, they're all thinking about it all the time. So as much as we think about eschatology and have our opinions of when's this going to happen, are we counting down? Some people think it's going to happen because of this reason, that reason, and the other thing. That's happening now. That was happening right here in front of us in Matthew 24. They're asking in your passage you covered, when's this going to happen? Because they're looking back to Daniel 9 and they're counting years and weeks and, trying to figure it out. And they want to know as much as we do. And I think it's after your text. By the way, before I forget, "Let the Reader Understand" that's a title of a very important hermeneutics textbook. Oh, okay.
Dan McCartney wrote that, and it's
Clever
interesting
name.
that he pulled it from here of all things, because I'd love to, let the reader understand, and you and I are trying to understand. We're trying to do that with this text. I was thinking of wherever the Son of Man begins. I think it's
right after.
When are you ending at 28?
Yeah.
So you're actually so 27 is in your text. So remember, not only Daniel 9, but that takes you back to
Daniel 7.
Yep. So that's very interesting how Daniel is a big deal. It's like for this. And on Sunday was Ezekiel. Ezekiel was oh my goodness, there's 2 times in Ezekiel where God announces judgment on Israel as a prophecy. And it involves, the temple and the glory and all that. So you're going to have a great time with that. That's a great text.
It's gonna be a blast.
And I didn't know at the time, but I was looking ahead. There would have been another potential Mother's Day sermon if you want to do another one.
Okay.
Because I botched it. Verse 19, "Alas, for women who are pregnant and for those who are nursing infants in those days, pray that your flight may not be in winter or on the Sabbath." So
we joked on Monday that it was, I laughed when you said on Sunday, we don't, the way you framed it was something like, I don't like doing Mother's Day texts because I've been doing this for so many years and there's only so many Mother's Day texts, as if you've preached a Mother's Day sermon. Have you ever preaced a Mother's Day sermon?
I'm sure way back.
A couple times before your tenure at Calvary Bible?
I don't think I ever did one here.
I don't remember.
I hope not.
Yeah. So we're longing for one.
Oh yeah. Well, you do it. You'll be ready. You'll be doing some of these. You can do them. They're fun. Mother's Days are great.
They are great.
But to find a text and then just for your sake, I mean, I don't know who you are, but what's hard on me is like the Mother's Day ones are always positive, upbeat, and the Father's Day are always trying to make the guys feel guilty for whatever they're not doing. And I thought, I'm not doing that. That just seemed to be a Christian thing. And balance it out. If you're going to do that, be fair to both. I mean,
I think on Mother's Day, we should, speak to the fathers and give them a hard time, tell them to love their wives.
And then
on Father's Day, flip it. Yeah. Yeah.
That'd be great too.
Yep.
Good.
All right. Good. Thanks. Good discussion. Some hairy chapters here in the end of Matthew. One commentator I was reading, I forget his name right now, but he was like, essentially he started off the chapter saying, Lord, have mercy on us. We're doing our best, and
Matthew 24
that's as
is
much
just
as you
awful.
can get into.
I mean, I said oh my goodness, the amount of stuff spilt on that, the amount of pages written about Matthew 24, probably one of the most difficult chapters in all the Bible.
Yeah. But
good for you, man.
We're not going to shy away from it.
No.
It's in the Word, and
no, do what we can do.
Best and put it into practice.
When we're always coming up short. We know that. It's okay.
Okay. Thanks for listening all the way to the end. If you have questions, though, for us about the sermons, email them into podcast@cbcmj.com. Love hearing them and interacting with those questions.
Oh, this coming Sunday would be a great time to post some questions about the abomination of desolation, I think.
Yeah. Pepper us with those questions. Are you going to be back next week for the podcast?
No, I come back in town late Tuesday night.
Okay.
So it's you and Jordan.
You're going to miss it. Yeah.
You and Jordan. Do it on Monday maybe, or?
Monday, Tuesday, yeah.
No,
we'll figure it out.
He doesn't come in on Tuesdays.
Maybe he'll make a special trip for me.
He might do that.
All right. Thank you. Love you guys. And Lord willing, see you on Sunday. Thanks again for joining us on today's episode. And remember, our Sunday sermons are meant to lead us to a life of worship beyond Sunday.